Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Erudition Network. This is Adroit Living section of the Erudition Network. I'm going to give people time to come on in. Come on in. We've had our Easter and spring is here. Who's ready for spring? Who's ready? I'm ready. I didn't think we had enough snow though. Who um who thought we had enough snow? I was really waiting for like the bomb cyclones and all of that sort of thing. And we didn't really get that this year. Not complaining, not complaining. I'm just saying because I was expecting it. And when it didn't happen, I was like, oh, wow, we're not getting the bomb cyclone. Okay. We made it through the whole winter and we didn't get any bomb cyclone um, problems here. I don't know where you are, but we didn't get any here. So I was like, wow, I was really expecting it. Hey, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today is Monday Fun Day. Okay. Normally, Mondays are like, begrudgingly getting up. It's Monday. I can't do it. I'm dragging. I feel you. If it wasn't for coming on here and talking to all of you people and making fun and having some jokes and whatnot, uh, yeah, it would be grudging for me to get up to. But look, last week I talked about the 80s commercial about the kid who was talking to the owl and asked the owl, guess what we have here? We have the owl. Hello, owl. So look, I'm gonna make it real simple and a lot of fun today. So if you get mad at me, just say in the comments, leave the owl alone, leave the owl alone. Hey, Falanda, how you doing, sis? So I'm going to make it really simple. Last week we talked about um, the owl and how in the 80s we had a lot of dark humor that we've normalized now. And it's not humorous any longer. It is actually the way people behave. And it's like, okay, maybe as a joke it's funny, but as actual life is not. So like we talked about how the kid gave the owl a lollipop. Let's use this as the lollipop. And the kid said, how many licks does it take to get to the good part? Right? We all want to know how long it takes to get to the good part. The owl takes the sucker from the kid and he one, two, three, bites it, and that was it. And the kid's sitting there still waiting. How long is it going to take to get to the good part? Why is this valid right now? Because a lot of people are waiting to get to the good part of their life. They're waiting to get to the good part of their life. They're saying things like, oh, I've been working hard, and here comes this pandemic and we have all of these problems and these multivariants and all these other things that's going on, and everybody's waiting and asking everybody, how long is it going to take before we get to the good part? Some people said, well, reverse mortgages, that's how you get there. And a young lady said she did that. So the owl said, hey, reverse mortgages. And she said, no, no, get out of here. You ate my sucker the last time. But she trusted them with the reverse mortgage. So what happened? It's on the news. And the young lady said, well, I'm not, I did that. We had to start over. I don't want to do that again. So, but the question they were asking her was investing into Bitcoin. And here comes the owl. So this owl came up and said, hey, invest in Bitcoin. And she said, what? I recognize you, owl. You're not going to get me this time. So the young lady said, I'm not investing in Bitcoin. And the owl's like, oh no, you're not investing in Bitcoin. You gotta invest in Bitcoin. We're making it the currency, the permanent currency. So you gotta invest now. Get in now. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it because you caused me to have to start all over again, and I'm not gonna keep taking it any longer. And the owl says, okay, I'll be back. Because they're trying to say that Bitcoin is going to be the currency. Yet a lot of people are like, I don't believe that this yet another thing that I have to invest in. You told me invest in school, and school didn't help me. You told me to invest in um, um, different type of markets and the market crashed. You told me to do all of these things and none of these things turned out to be successful. So we're all asking you, when are we going to get to the good part? We can't get to the good part because a lot of times the owl is playing on our mental health. The owl is playing on our mental health. Now, what do I mean by playing on our mental health? Well, a lot of the dark humor play a dangerous role on our ability to discern things, to ingest things, to encode and learn properly, because we were so confused about the dark humor that this owl, because it was funny, it was entertaining, and it's an owl. Who's expecting this owl to be so dark when we're going to the owl for knowledge? No one saw it coming. So through our humor, we accepted the wrong thing. And it's like the owl is looking like, got him. So now we're coming to understand that we see in a whole lot of our friends, family members, people out there on the street, and they're wandering around aimlessly, and they seem lost. And it's like, oh, what are we going to do? These people have mental problems, mental things that we need to address that we're not addressing. A lot of those people, they don't understand that they have these problems. Even if you point it out to them, they're not recognizing that they have these problems, because that's not something that we talk about. We don't talk about mental health, but now we're going to talk about it because it's so pertinent that it's destroying people from the inside out. It's like a cancer of the mind, and the worst kind, the kind that we don't recognize. So it continues to deteriorate us and eat us from the inside out. And by the time anybody recognizes it, everybody's like, oh, he's never done that before. Oh, she's never done that before. But by that time, it's too late. The damage has been done, and there's so much confusion and scarring, and people are gaslighting themselves that they don't even know what's wrong with them. So they deny that anything's wrong. One thing you've got to take away from today is mental health is physical health and financial wealth. We're going to talk about that today. Mental health is physical health despite what you're battling. You can have, I've seen on TikTok, and I know I talk about TikTok a lot. I saw on TikTok there was a young man who didn't have any legs. He had no legs. All he had was the mobility of his arms. But because his mental state was so strong, he was able to do a whole lot of things that a lot of athletes, you know, are astonished by. He's wrestling, he's walking, he's doing a whole lot of things, and he's independently living. And independent living is not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing first. Because if you think about it, think about children. Children, they're not handicapped or anything like that originally. Just a normal average child. But you treat them in a certain way because they're developing. They're trying to get they're trying to get a grasp on their mental stability, their physical, and they're balancing all of these things. They're balancing all of these things. And it's like, okay, that's how you have to treat it. Treat your mental health like you're balancing all of these things, but you have to stay focused on your mental well-being. Okay. Now, the reason why that's important is because that is the engine that's running everything. It is running everything. It's going to determine whether you go far left or far right, or if you stay focused in the middle. And the middle is a very different, difficult place to maintain. Why? Because a lot of times we get distracted by certain things, and then you see that owl come up, and he's like, "Uh-oh, get that owl out of here!" And everybody's like, so everybody didn't recognize the owl came. Everybody didn't see that owl come. And it's like, oh, I didn't recognize that. So it takes somebody else to point it out that that owl is sitting on your shoulder. That owl is on your back. That owl is there and is wearing on your mentality to the point where it's messing with your physical health. Okay. And a lot of times you'll see people, they're having dark thoughts and you don't know that they're having dark thoughts. But if you read their body language and they slumped over and they like, oh, and when they normally sit up and they erect and they're smiling, or They're just chipper, but some people can hide it through the facade of, sitting up, smiling. They're like functioning alcoholics with mental problems, but it's a mental functioning, mentally disabled type of situation. So what you want to do is you want to try to help that person recognize this is what's going on, this is what's going on wrong, this is what you used to be, this is where you are now, what's going on. And a lot of people are saying, well, I have other things going on in my life. I can't, just sit there and figure out what's going on with that person. But a lot of times I've heard a couple of songs, and I've even read in a few of the um, biblical or even religious faiths where a lot of people understand that as I minister to you, I'm also ministering to myself. So while you sitting there thinking that you can't help nobody because you're in a mess yourself, you need to understand that, okay, I'm in a mess myself, but if I'm helping someone else, I can better help myself because I can better recognize myself in the problem as well. Because a lot of times when I'm helping someone, I'm like, man, that hit home for me. Wow, that fed me. I'm feeding you, but I'm eating too. So that's why a lot of times I strongly encourage people, despite where you may be in your own mental health, your own mental problems, your own physical problems, whatever you're going through. If you see somebody else that you can help, try, and you'll see that it's feeding you too. Now, I want to go to marriage. Why? Because I want to talk about why you should never stop securing your marriage as if you did when you first got the person. It plays on their mental ability as well, their mental health. And a lot of times people say, well, people are out here now getting married, and it seems like they're just getting married just to be married. No, a lot of people, and the thing that's funny to me is it's like, people out here having sex, and that's okay. They're having babies out of wedlock. They're doing everything out of their living out of wedlock. But you mad that they get married for no reason? It just a lot of, and then the thought that comes to mind is, uh, there's that owl again, and it's like you didn't recognize that what you just said. That you didn't recognize how odd that sound. Maybe it's just me. But again, there we go with the mental health and mental well being. You don't recognize that you just said something really odd. Like, at least they're trying to be married. At least they're working towards something. You can't just be, oh, there's a lot of people out here and they just get married just to be married. Hey, Jackie, how you doing? So it's like, why should you continue to treat them according to the way you did when they were dating? You got them now. They stuck. Y'all stuck. No, you're not stuck yet. Because as long as people are living and breathing, they have a chance to turn things around. And that's why you have to not give up on people just because they're growing and learning. And they may step on your toes a little bit, but give them a little room to grow and learn so they can understand and y'all can grow and learn better together. Now, the reason why you want to make sure that you are treating that person that you're with for the long haul the way that you did when you were first trying to get them is because every day they're making that decision. Every day it's a mental battle of whether they're going to stay together or break up. And it's so much going on in these days that it's like this little owl keeps coming out of the corner. Every time you turn around, it's like, oh, they had a fight. What they doing now? Oh, and here somebody come just to make your situation more difficult. Even if you're not married, you're trying to get married or you're engaged or you're dating and you're dating with the thought or the intent to try to stay together, people are coming out like this owl, and it's like nobody recognizes that owl. No matter how many times that owl come up, nobody is recognizing them, and it's like, is he wearing a disguise or something? He's like, no, not me, I'm just me. It's like, why are you not understanding what's going on here? And a lot of people, they spend their entire life together working on it. There's some people, and I'm not knocking how you do it. A lot of people, they get together and they just shack up and they live together. They have kids, they have family, and they combine their housing situation, they living situation, and they've been living that way for years, but they never get married. They never get married because there's a stigma on marriage that makes it taboo to be married But you already doing everything there is to that married people do. So why not get married? Let me tell you why you should get married. That paper that you have that says that this is yours and that's his, guess what? It does more than just say that. It tells the doctors, look, this is the person that that person trusts at the end of the day when the chips are down. When nothing else is going right with this person, this is that person's advocate. This is the person that they trust. This is the person that they love. This is the person that has that person's well being at heart. Yes, people do have to make that choice every day, and you want to make sure that you feel confident that you made the right choice. A lot of people, their mental well-being is balancing and teetering so much because they're not confident that they picked the right person. The owl could come in and try to distract them into another person because you're constantly mentally battling with what you the decision that you made, and then when you're not treating that person according to the way you did when you all were dating, that just feeds into the fuel of the fire for you all to grow apart. That gives the owl more things to say, even though he's funny, and we're feeding into him because he's hilarious, he's colorful, he's attractive, and we're gonna give that owl some attention because he's hilarious, he's intelligent. The owl is intelligent and he's telling you all the things you want to hear, all the things you want to know, and you just getting so much from you feeding, he feeding you, and you growing something, but are you growing the right thing? Now, the longer you stay in a relationship, you're always going to find a reason why you shouldn't be in that relationship. But the question is, what makes me want to stay in this relationship? What can you live without? And is that something that that person has that's in abundance? If you can live without that person, then you don't need that person. But if that person is feeding you, if that person is fueling the things in you that's saying, oh man, I got to have this person is making me laugh, this person makes dark thoughts go over. I'm not saying, that you have to depend on somebody for your mental health and your mental well-being. What I'm saying is they have to contribute in some kind of way, and don't minimalize the matter of the fact that they are feeding into your mental health. A lot of people say, well, and especially in this economy, they don't have a job. They don't have any ambition. They're hopeless and hapless. And a lot of times it's the economy. The economy right now is pulling on everybody. But so you really have to be really careful in letting people go who are feeding your mental health and your mental well-being. A lot of people don't put too much on that. Some people say, well, this person you with, they don't do nothing. They do nothing. I don't even see how you with them. That person makes me laugh. I can do everything. I don't need a man. But that person makes me laugh. A man to say, well, you're doing everything for yourself, man. What is she doing for you? What is she doing for you? She's home when I get there. If nothing more, the very bare minimum, she is home when I get home, and I can rely on her to be there when nobody else is there. A lot of men don't like to go home to an empty home. They want somebody they can rely on to be in the house. A lot of these young ladies, y'all busy running the streets and y'all don't understand your value. They say, all he wants me to do is just be at home, sit at home. I can't just be sitting at home. You don't have to sit at home. You ask him, what time you want to be there? Okay, and you just meet him there. You don't have to change your whole life just to fit someone else and be compatible with someone, but just understand what their needs are so you can meet them where their needs are if you want to be with that person. Now, a lot of times people say divorce is high, so I don't want to get married. Divorce is divorce, divorce. And it's like you have to keep working on the relationship. I don't care what relationship it is, what the status is, whether you get married or you decide not to get married, you just gonna shack forever. Guess what? That marriage is that is still a marriage. I don't care what you say. It's still constantly evolving. The difference is that piece of paper, the piece of paper that the law is going to recognize as being legitimate. You want to legitimize your relationship because when it comes to legalities, you don't it's a fine print up in there that you don't know, and you're going to be happy that you went and you did that and you finalized it because you could be married in your heart and gotta honor that. Gotta honor what's in your heart. And you'll be like, well, the law didn't. They should stop saying they need a man. They should stop saying they don't need a man. All right, all right. I feel you. I need, and I bet you, Jackie, I bet you, there's a couple of things that you have on a list of things that you have that that husband does that you say you need him for. Even though if you find it in yourself, if you really search yourself, you can do those things yourself. So he doesn't necessarily need to do those things, but you would like. So the it's like when we say we need something, people think that, well, we're trying to leech on them. And a lot of men are straying away from that because they're like, no, she gonna be a leech. She gonna be a leech. And it's like we need to understand the difference between saying that I need somebody and I want someone. So a lot of young lady they saying, oh, I don't need no man. I don't need no man. And then they batter the men. They beat them down and they make it so that no man wants to be involved with them because all you're going to do is tear them down, emasculate them, and just to make yourself feel better about yourself. A lot of times we don't understand the difference between needing and wanting. A woman to say, well, I got everything. I got everything. I don't, and then she say, well, she got a whole bunch of kids from different guys, but now she want a man. She want a husband. She just want one husband. And she'll say, well, I don't need him. I just want him. And then it's like, you have to make yourself appear to be want something that somebody else will want. So you can't just say, oh, well, I don't need a man. I got all this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, late in the midnight hour, you waiting for that 2, 3 o'clock call to come in for somebody to call you and say, oh, you don't need no man, but you need this. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till the after 5 show to say all that. But you know where that's going. People are always saying that what they don't need, but then turn around. You can't do everything for yourself. So in essence, you do need a man. You need a partner. So because some things you can't do on your own, even though you can, you really want someone else to there to do those things. So it's really more of a want than it is a need for a whole lot of people. But yes, I feel you, sister, because I need a husband. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't do it by myself. I'm right there with you, Jackie. I can't do it by myself. I need a man because this man gonna do some things and I'm gonna push him to do it. Hey, he don't want to take out that trash. That's all right. I'm gonna push him to do it. But I definitely feel they need him. But yes, that's the focus that I like to focus on because a lot of people they're back and forth with what they need because if they quantify it as I need a man because I need somebody to love me, but then that person finds self love, suddenly they don't need that man no more. If they say, oh, I need a man because I need a father for my children. Now the children are self-sufficient and they not really bothered with you. They more out of the house than in the house. Suddenly you find yourself, you don't need that man anymore. So that's why I don't want to say things like, oh, I need a man, I need a man. And people out here saying they need. It's about what you want. I never told Eddie I needed him. I never told my husband, oh, I just need you. It wasn't exactly. It was a want for me because it's like I would like somebody to share my life with, like Jackie said. I would like someone to share my joy, and when I come home, tell you about everything that I went through today, and we're gonna laugh or we're gonna cry or we're gonna do whatever it takes to get through it. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't know how in the economy, with the economy being so bad, people out here just having babies back to back." And it's like, you don't know what kind of stress relief that is yet. And man, it's a bonus. Exactly. And that's what we all need to be seeing it as a bonus. It's something that we we want to need it, but at the same time we don't. And if we convince ourselves that we needed it when we attach it to that need that we thought we had, once we no longer have that need anymore, that person loses their relevance. And it's not really fair to that person. Whoever your mate is that you chose that you thought you needed, it's not fair to them because now that need is gone and they're like, oh, you just used me. A lot of men and women feel that way. You just used them because you felt that you had a need, and now that that need is over and you feel like you don't need that need anymore by someone else, now they're gone. And it's like they don't even know why the relationship ended. It just ended. Oh, we grew apart. That's why a lot of times the relationships do grow apart because you pinned it on something that had an expiration. Now, you have to start focusing on things that do not have an expiration so that your relationship can last longer and so you can make better decisions on who a mate is for you instead of having somebody to tell you, yeah, the good part, and all you doing is focusing on the laughs, the jokes, dark humor, and the good part. No, it's some ups and downs and it's some rocky roads in there. And a lot of times people they don't talk about the rocky roads because everybody's so overly focused on getting to the good part. The good part comes and goes. Exactly, baby. Yeah, sex is extremely therapeutic. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't even afford a baby. Yeah, that's a problem too. People want to feel. Yeah, and that's a good point. A person wants to feel uh, needed and wanted for themselves and not for a situation. And sometimes people can't tell the difference because a lot of times the owl in the room, and a lot of people they don't know. And if a loved one points it out and they say, well, look, she don't really want you, she don't really love you, because that's not love. They say she don't love you, she don't love you. They are willing to disconnect themselves from their entire family just to be with that person because now that person is speaking against your relationship. And that's messing with your mental health and well-being. And so what you're gonna do, you're gonna detach yourself from that because really it's something that you really, really want to the point where you feel like you need it until you come to the realization that you don't need it. If you need something, you need it whether you realize it or not. If you need something, it's like I need air to breathe, whether I realize it or not as a baby. If you take that air away from me, I needed that air, now I'm gonna die. So that's the difference between want. I want some, some quality air to breathe. So, but a lot of times you don't get quality air. For example, there's a lot of forest fires and things going on right now. So we're not getting a whole lot of that quality air that we would like. So we have to understand the difference between want and need. We use sex and as an excuse. But you know what? A lot of people think that sex is an excuse for the moment. But a lot of times we have to recognize it's not an excuse. It's something about sex that happens and it does a lot physically and it does even more mentally with your mental health and your mental well-being. That's why it's very you have to be careful in having sex with too many people because that's a lot of times why a lot of people have mental problems. You're giving yourself away to too many people, and it's really messed with your mental stability because you're trying to balance a lot and it's not working for you. You need to stay focused on that one person. And that's why even if you don't sign the paper to say that you married, you need to stay focused on working with that person. What's a good person to work with? Anybody that knows that this relationship is going to evolve. This relationship is going to evolve, but we're going to base it on I choose you and you choose me. And every day, every moment of that day, throughout the rest of our life, we are making this decision. We are consciously making this decision that I'm going to do what it takes to keep you, and you're going to do everything it takes to keep me. Now, you may not do everything, but do enough. Do enough. What Philanda say? This is both. Yes, a lot of people think that it's not both mental and physical, and they think that they could just get away with doing whatever they want to do, and that's okay. And it's not. It's not okay. And you can't just do whatever you want. You have to consider the other person. And you're like, well, it was just a physical act. A lot of guys, they'll try to say, and a lot of young ladies, they'll be out here trying to do the same thing. And then they don't understand why somebody getting in their feelings. Somebody in their feelings because it is not, you would like to speak those things and be not as though they were, but there's some things you just can't speak into existence. Like the detachment between sex and mental well-being and physical. It's not just a physical act, it's a physical manifestation of a feeling and emotion and mental situation. What did Teddy say? That's because sex is, yeah, and a lot of people lie about it. Let's just realize a lot of people lie about it, but it's most intimate thing that you can do. The sexual escape is, yeah, and it's like some people they don't value that, and a lot of times people they're in their feelings about being married or not being married because they're like, well, if I come to depend on this person and this person isn't there for me, don't think of it like that. Stop with the dark thoughts straight off the bat. Think of it as we're building and we're going to keep on finding a way to build. So I strongly encourage marriage. This is the marriage season where a lot of people who are out here having sex and they're like, oh, well, let's just go ahead and make it legit. And I agree with that 100% because a lot of times what people don't realize is God honors marriage. And because he honors marriage, he gives you little blessings along the way. That's the good part. There's this thing that in a lot of religious faiths that long suffering. There was a whole religion where the young man, I think it was a Confucius. I forget which one it was, but he didn't want to see. Oh, I think it was Buddha. He didn't want to see long suffering, but long suffering is part of the fruits of the spirit, and that's it's human. It's that's what we're going to experience. It's some suffering, and a lot of times we say, "Uh-oh, here's the bad part," and now we've been tricked, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be tricked. I'm gonna clarify, Eddie. Oh, do we? Oh, we're gonna put that everywhere. Okay, let's put it this way. Um, when my need is fulfilled, I'm not just gonna throw Eddie away because I wanted him. So you understand? So as long as I want him, he stays relevant. And as long as I find a use for him, he stays somebody that I need, and vice versa. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to want or need or say I don't need a man or what. Your thing is your thing. What I'm suggesting is there's a better way. That's what I'm suggesting. There's a better way. Don't get it twisted. What I'm saying is there is a better way, more sustainable happiness type of way that can build on your mental health and your physical health so you can have a financial stability and be financially healthy. Because a lot of times we're throwing money at the problems. And if we're continuously throwing money at the problems, you're going to find you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of things that you're going to throw at this situation in order to solve the problem. And if you continue to throw things at it, you're going to find yourself empty, hollow, and those dark thoughts and behaviors are going to be so much easier to creep in and overwhelm you. So I'm saying there's a better way, and we need to focus on having what is that better way? What alternative is there? It sounds more like you try to turn this into a after five session, man. You keep warning me that this is not after five, so I have to keep it PG. So we're gonna keep it PG. Oh, what Teddy say? That's right. It is not just referring to just sex. It's referring to your mental well-being, your physical, and a lot of times people they don't realize that after a while you can feel like sometimes Eddie will be at work and I'll just know something's wrong and I'll just start praying or he'll call and I'm like, yep, I just knew you was gonna call because it's that connection, it's that one, you becoming one. Keep it PG until Wednesday. I know, right, Philanda? Because when Wednesday comes, what is it, this Wednesday? Yes, let's put that out there since Philanda brought that up. When Wednesday comes, we will be doing another after five set where Eddie, Philanda, and Jesse and myself will be on talking about again some after five things, and we will talk about a few other things as well, things that come up with when you're doing after five stuff. Okay. But today, because it's before 5 o'clock everywhere, we're going to just keep it PG so people don't get upset because I tell you about some I know, right, Philanda? Sex is your topic. I ain't mad at you, sis. I ain't mad at you. And I can tell you some things. We could talk about the mental well being about sex because certain things it'll play into the mind where it's like, oh well, he didn't get you there. He didn't get you there, sis. Now his mental is messed up, but she's angry and her mental is messed up. She got two problems, and all the problems is him. So I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna go there because people will be like, "Oh, it's not Wednesday yet." Yeah, come for Wednesday. Come for Wednesday. But just remember, every day you making a decision to stay with this person, and sex can't be the only reason why you making that decision to stay with that person, and money can't be the only reason either, because money run out, and them pills that keep the sex going they run out too. So you don't base it on sex, don't base it on money. And I know I talk about them pills, but it was like a twin YouTuber, and it was talking about these pills, and they were attractive. And I was like, so I was listening just for the eye candy alone, and and they were funny. So for the eye candy and the jokes, I'm looking and I'm listening, and I'm like, what? It's some pills for what? And y'all, how young? And y'all taking these pills already? I was like, oh, I'm interested. And late as the time flew by, I lost interest. I didn't watch it anymore. But it was interesting while I was looking. I was like, what? These young guys using pills? Like, wow, is it wow, wow. I didn't think that I thought the pills were for older people, you know, because they only giving you what that comedian said, 60% chub. Anyway, I didn't know the young guys were using it. So in my opinion, when your mentality is in alignment with what's going on, you could take things um, further intimately without the need of appeal, if that makes sense. PG. I'm trying to keep it PG. So if your mental stability is there, and if you can retain it for the length of time that she needs so she can get what she got to get out of this visit, then you don't need pills. So that's why mental health is very important because it is the engine that's going to drive a whole lot of things that everybody wants. And yeah, that's your reputation right there. You don't want people saying you can't do what you need to do without pills. Hey, it's not PG, but that was the topic in the comments. I'm just replying to the comments. And if people said uh things in the comments, I gotta we are talking about Chubbs. Hey, a lot of people don't know what Chubbs is, so it's like, that's borderline. That's borderline. But let's talk about what is it? A lot of people say the problems that we're encountering are systemic. Now let me tell you why that's um that's something that I avoid the conversation of because a lot of people they talk to you like it's not systemic. Who created the system? People. Who's perpetuating the system? People. So don't tell people about oh well it's systemic. It's systemic. No. I at one point in time when I was in Chicago and I was coming out of a high school and I was going into college and I was like, okay, this psychology instructor, he said some mean things to me and oh, I guess I was ahead of my time because they're doing that now. At 20 years later, they were doing it and it was the norm. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try something else. So I went into uh, uh, computer programming and IT stuff. And in doing so, I learned a lot about computers. A computer cannot function unless a person programs the computer to function. And if you programming the computer to function, don't tell me about the system because it's not the system. And guess what? I'm not giving my lollipop to this owl. Hey, James, because you're not going to sucker me out of thinking that this is you. It's not the system, this is you. Who's controlling every input that goes into that computer? You. So don't tell me, oh, it's the system. And then people get upset with me when I tell them, because I used to do computer programming. I used to do a whole lot of IT. I can still do it. And I took certifications for computer programming and security and stuff like that. So don't tell somebody who know, because they say you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool everybody all the time. And then when they run into that one, they want to try to confuse that one as if everybody's going to be subjected to what this owl is saying. Everybody's not going to listen to this owl because everybody saw what the owl did. He did it on TV and it was hilarious, but nobody's going to listen. Okay, Tim. Okay, you feel better? I'm just reading the name on here. Like I say, Eddie instead of Teddy. I'm just reading the names. I'm reading the comments. Where my popcorn? I'm just here for the comments. If this was the show that was just here for the comments alone, and y'all just see me pop popcorn in my mouth every time you say something in the comments, and then you try to say, "Hey, you just said," that was what was in the comments. That was what was in the comments. What you say, Eddie? People make up the system. We call it, but they're lacking the people part of it, and the people who are, for example, I'll call in the IT for them to correct the issue, right? I'm having a problem with my computer, and they'll say, oh well, it's systemic, and I'll tell them, well, isn't that your job? Then I just call you so you can input what's going wrong into the computer and you can fix it so that you can, correct the computer. That's why we don't have AI. What's it not wrong? They are wrong because they are the system. And if you, a lot of times, that's why we can't get people who work these jobs and know what they're doing, because they don't know how to correct the computer. The computer is not artificially intelligent. It is someone programming the computer. So it's not a systemic problem. It's a you problem. What Philanda say? Do you think people who are, yeah, some people, Eddie loves to reference this book that this pimp wrote. Eddie, say the name of that book in the comments. It's a book, and this pimp, he says he wrote a whole book about how his mom treated him and why he wrote the book and why he's not going to be that sucker crying for a good woman to stay with him when he's sitting there being, man enough to take care of someone else's child, but she's out there still trying to run up behind other people who are abusing her, using her as a tool. And what did Teddy say? Eddie too said, "Pimp by Iceberg Slim." You got to read that book. You got to read that book. That is an awesome example of a lot of the things that we talk about on this show about mental health and wealth, and about how relationships function and dysfunctional relationships, but and how you should have that hierarchy of needs so you can recognize what's going on in your relationship so that you can fix it, get ahead of it, change the narrative, whatever it is that you have to do in order to fix it for your mental well-being. That's what's important. And a lot of people feel like, well, I have to service someone else. And a lot of times you feel like, oh, well, servicing someone else isn't getting you where you need to be. And here you are, you out, and you like, well, where's my turn? And here comes that out again. Where's my turn? Where's going to be my turn? It's never going to be your turn because you're not doing what you have to do to make it vocalize, to vocalize what you want, what you need, when you need it, and when you expect it. And then you got to draw that hard line. You got to make people toe that line. And a lot of times people are so busy servicing someone else, taking care of someone else, that they're like, oh well, um, I can't find time to fit myself in. I know that feeling because I'm like that. I'm like that. I'm always helping someone else that I don't find a way to work myself in. And a lot of times it's like, oh, well, my needs come last, not second, but last. And it's like, okay, well, when are you going to start putting yourself first? Well, if you ask in that owl, you're never going to be first. You're never going to have enough time. You're never going to have enough room. And that's not his objective. That's not his goal, because his goal is dark humor. And he is going to keep fooling you to thinking, gaslight you and laughing. And it's going to be like, you're going to laugh too because you gaslight yourself that this is funny. You being a butt of the joke all the time is not funny. It's not funny, and it's not going to wash all the time because it is messing with your mental health. And a lot of people saw uh, the most um, the most pertinent example lately is the Will Smith situation. A lot of people saw him mentally failing long before he crashed. Long before he crashed. Now, it's so many people out here that's like Will, smiling, going about their day and jumping out of planes, trying to be adventuresome, trying to do things that they would like to do and trying to avoid what's tearing them or eating at them. Let's say it that way, like what's eating at them. And a lot of people uh like this, I equate the Oscars to the owl. I know that's crazy. The owl saw that this is an opportunity and they created this environment so that when the time came, now the owl is smart enough to play chess. And he sets the chessboard up. He sets this chessboard up and you just the player. And eventually the owl knows you're a player, so you're gonna eventually come and play my game. But when you do, you're not gonna see that I already set it up. So you come and here you are in my trap now. The owl is patient. The owl is intelligent and patient. And now here you are. You're ready. You're ready for the trap and don't see it coming. And it's going to be thoroughly entertaining for everybody that's watching. But what about the people in it? What about the victims in it? What about everybody that's being in this problem, that's hurt by this problem? Guess what? Guess who don't care? Guess who don't care? The person that's getting everything they want out of it. The person that's getting everything they want out of it. When are we going to start seeing the person that's getting everything out of it is not being negatively impacted by this? We need to start recognizing that owl and say, hey, I see you over there. I'm not going to feed into it. We're waiting for the gas prices to come down. Like, we don't know who really controlling it. Oh, it's systemic. It's not systemic. It is about the people. If you start boycotting and saying, well, I'm not going to drive as much as I used to. Why? Because the oil prices are too high. They're just making up for all the money that they lost before. And you're like, oh, well, what's going on? Yes, it is, and that's what I call conditioned thinking. Conditioned thinking. So it's like you're sitting here waiting for everything to go down, and the owl said, "I'm back." Y'all thought y'all was doing something when them gas prices was out there. Y'all was quarantined. We lowered the prices just to bring you out of your home, and you didn't come. We gonna fix you, and you're not gonna even be ready. You're not gonna even realize what's going on. We have an oil reserve. If we boycott and say, look, we're gonna jam the streets like them truckers did. They jammed the streets and the highways and the byways of the expressways so people couldn't do anything. And guess what? They had to address the problem. Stop saying it's systemic when the people who are working the system and creating the system and programming it to make it function or dysfunctional. How do you change that? Back in the day, I know people hate to say it, but back in the day, Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Shuttlesworth, and a whole bunch of other people got tired. And what did they do? They marched against it. They battled against it. How? By hitting people where it hurts in their pocketbook. Because outside of hitting them financially, no one cares. You could cry, you could complain, you could tell them how much this hurts your family, you could tell them how this puts you out on the street. For example, I'm extremely upset by the increase in the homeless population now. I'm extremely upset about how a lot of people got to go out here and cleverly build their own homes in a vehicle. But it's not just the black people that were being conditioned during slavery. It was a lot of white people because a lot of white people didn't agree with that either. And they still had to be conditioned in order to fit in because that hierarchy of human needs. They need to belong somewhere. So they couldn't just say, well, okay, I'm going to ignore this. They had to act like they're getting along. Yeah, the battle is with the system, but how do people get together in order to combat it when we're not even recognizing the owl in the room? A lot of people just want to say, Oh, well, it was a particular era. It was not just a slave era. It is a part of every, it's a part of the life because it's a mental state. A lot of people, for example, they're in jail and they didn't do it. A lot of innocent people. It's not just African American. It's not just one culture. It's a lot of people in jail. They did not do it, and they're trying to break them mentally. A lot of people do get broken, but they come back to their sense and they're like, well, I know I didn't do it. I did not do this. And it's that mental strength that a lot of people are trying to break, and they're trying to do it in so many ways where you don't even recognize this is happening. And a lot of people are like, no, you're lying. You're lying on me. And they say, well, I'm just going to lock you up and nobody's going to know the wiser. But now we're coming to the age where we're like, no, we're going to stop doing that. Not- yeah. And that's the part that I'm focused on, the programmer. The programmer is the one who is, again, the owl that's sitting perched up, watching everything like it's a show. What? Okay. And that's why we have to attack the owl. We have to attack the owl, and the only one way you can attack the owl is financially. That's the only way. And if you were to say, for example, you was to say, hey, nobody is going to drive or purchase gas for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Stop going in different places and using all that gas up. Go only to where you need to go. And anybody that's working remotely, stop driving completely. Walk to the grocery store or whatever store you need to go to. Just start protesting. Every time, the only way you're going to get them to look at you is you have to start saying, I'm not going to patronize you financially. Not going to support you financially. Everybody talk about these gold diggers, these women as gold diggers. It's a lot of men out here that's gold diggers, and it's a lot of them at the top 1%. If you want to be real about it, it's a lot of 1%ers who are gold diggers, and you just don't see it because it's a show. It's all this glamour and glitz and color and everything, and you think they intelligent. You looking at them for answers. They don't have no answers. They just like, let me see that sucker. Let me see your prized possession. Let me just get this from you, and let me hold this from you, and you'll never get it back. And you'll still be sitting there thinking, well, I invested and I lost. Yeah, you lost. You invested, but you lost. And the owl is sitting there like, but I didn't. It's all gain for the owl. It's all gain for the owl. And you still keep on perpetuating this owl, and you want to tell this lie about it being a system, a systemic. Who is writing this programming? I know how difficult it is to write programming, and I know when I write a program, I don't want to go back in there and rewrite it because it's very boring, it's dull, and it's like driving a million hours on the road, right? And the road is hypnotizing you, and you falling asleep. You falling asleep, and it's like, oh man, I didn't realize I was falling asleep, and suddenly, like the Matrix, yeah, you don't even realize you in it. Like the Matrix, a lot of people didn't realize they were in it. But when they realized it, they attacked it. I don't even know what they're doing with the Matrix now. But the point of the matter is, a lot of people, they're gaslighted by someone, and then they gaslight themselves because now you're feeding into this owl, and it's what this owl wants, and this owl only wants to take your money. But once you take your money back or you keep your money to yourself and you say, well, because I don't like this particular president and this particular president supports Macy's, I'm not going to support Macy's for the entire duration of this presidency. I'm not a lot. That's a sacrifice, but it's a well worth it sacrifice because now they're going to make corrections because now guess what? You have hit them where it hurts. You have made it impact them to the point where they're like, well, I'm going to have to reconsider some things. And that's what you want. That's the goal, to make them reconsider some things so that when you're sitting there and you're in your feelings and you have dark thoughts, you don't know how you're going to make it from one moment to the next. How are you making a change? How are you going to make this change happen for what you want it to happen for? You have to start taking your money and keeping it to yourself. Just like these women say, well, my man ain't doing what I want him to do, so I'm going to withhold sex from him. I don't. I don't encourage that because you need it just as much as he does. But that's not the conversation for this hour because this is not an after five uh, session. So we're not going to do that. But I'm going to say it's just like that when you're withholding your funds from a company. They say, well, you need these products, so you got to go out here and buy it. You're going to break, you're going to break. And when you do, the price is going to be even higher. You have to find alternative ways. And a lot of I thought that the rent and everything was going to go down, the utilities and everything was going to go down until these people went out there and said, nope. It's a lot of people out here that's building their own homes in a motor vehicle and they have solar system and batteries and they're like, no, we're never going back. We're never going back. And why is that? Because they realize they have to take their power back. And the only way you can take your power back is you have to say, no, I do not want it. I do not need it. You used me up for the last time. That's it. A lot of people have said that. And I highly commend them for that because it is a sacrifice. It's a change of mentality. It's a change of lifestyle, but it's worth the freedom. So, because now you're not feeding into the system, even though, a lot of these people, they're the ones that broke the system. They're the ones that sat there and made you subordinate to the system, and you don't even realize it, but you're enslaved to the system because mentally, emotionally, and even physically, you can't go nowhere. You can't do anything because you're stuck. You have to start thinking outside of the box and living cleverly so you don't have to be attached to any of that. So every time that owl come around, you recognize that owl and you say, I'm going the other way. I'm going the other way. I'm not going to even pay any attention to you because I'm just your entertainment. And as long as I know I'm your entertainment, I know how to control my happiness. A lot of people going about controlling their happiness the wrong way. You can't entertain the owl at the same time of take back your power, take back what's and control what's going on wrong and making you happy. So you can't keep blaming other people. You're feeding into it. Okay, well that's a lot of perspective in that. Yeah, there was a lot of our ancestors that made really relevant um, points, and they coined the phrases and made a lot of you know enlightening statements that we could still benefit and grow from today, even though it's 2022. But a lot of people, again, they busy being gaslighted and not understanding how this owl just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Nobody understands. So what we need to do is we need to recognize, and a large part of that is we need to work on our mental well-being. A large part of that is your hierarchy of human needs, recognizing what they are, realizing how to fix it, how to make it work more effectively for you and what you want, especially when it comes to relationships. And once you can master the relationships that you have with people, it doesn't just have to be somebody that you're an intimate partner with, but the relationships that you have with people. And you can start then looking outwardly and saying things like, oh, I know how to stop this owl from growing. I know how to stop this big owl from growing and overshadowing me and make that owl smaller and smaller and smaller until it just goes away because it's no longer relevant. It's no longer relevant in my life. So if it's not relevant in my life, I'm free now. People thought that slavery was a physical thing. It wasn't. It wasn't just a physical thing. It was the abuse of slavery was a physical thing, and a large part of what kept them bound. But you have to understand that mentality, it was the mentality. So if we can focus on fixing our mentality, writing down your hierarchy of needs and addressing them, writing down your hierarchy of needs for who you want to be with, what kind of job you want to have, your living arrangements, and everything in your life. So you can start piecing it together like a building, like a business plan. You're writing like a business plan, but this is really your emotional growth, your mental well-being and your mental growth. So if you write these things down, you could better piece these things together. You could better see it and put your hands on it. Now, The last thing I want to say is come on Wednesday, subscribe, like, share, because Wednesday we're gonna get into it. And I mean we getting into it. We're gonna get into the after five because that's our after five time this Wednesday on the 27th. Um what time you're gonna have to look for it. I know in Georgia it'll be 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock Georgia time. So come on in and be ready. Come early because we don't want to keep going over time. But yes, as always, you can watch the recording, rewind, pause, all that. But we want you to come and interact. 7 p.m. Eastern time. Philanda said it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. And don't forget to subscribe to Erudition so you won't miss it. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Come and interact because it's gonna get juicy. You might not be ready. Put the kids to bed early that day. Put them in front of the video game, let them play, and they won't hear anything that's being said because it's gonna be some stuff being said. Come interact and let's have fun. All right, see you next time.